I've been waiting my whole life for this one. Orthopedic surgeon and husband for The View host Sunny Hostin has been named in a federal lawsuit alleging insurance fraud.
I agree with mostly everything that's been said. I mean, we know that, only about 31% of Americans trust our healthcare system. We have a terrible healthcare system. And, doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions? Yeah. Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up.
Sunny Hostin just learned that karma doesn't tap politely, it barges in, with Tyrus and Greg Gutfeld ready to roast. Imagine losing $450 million and then getting torn apart on live TV by two guys who turn sarcasm into a contact sport. This story has it all: a financial disaster, bruised egos, and a takedown so ruthless it could knock out your internet connection. Buckle up, this might be the most brutal on-air roasting we've seen in years.
She is not implicated in the lawsuit at all, but it's just, you're married, Tom, you're married. If your husband's doing something, if he's allegedly doing something like this, you guys would know if your wives were up to some nefarious stuff. Let's just not forget who she is. She's been, for years, lecturing America about morality, inequality, systemic failures, and look at her track record. How many times does she have to go on in the past 2 months and look at the camera and do a legal apology for all the stuff that she said on the show?
In the criminal case now, the prosecutors are like, oh, really? Well, how about we add some additional fraud charges onto you? And they're talking about threatening him with insurance fraud, which I would say you could get about 20 years in prison. So that's a death sentence.
Now picture this. You're relaxing in your overpriced designer chair, the kind that looks stylish but feels like sitting on regrets, sipping some small batch, ethically sourced oat milk, probably judging the world with every sip. Suddenly, your inbox lights up with court notices like it's Cyber Monday for lawsuits. Do you panic? Of course not. You throw on your best "I'm better than you" blazer, step in front of the camera, and start lecturing the rest of us like we're all just a bunch of clueless school kids.
Their brains are small. But who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sunny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't show.
Welcome to Sunny Hostin's PR Nightmare of the Week. Yes, that's Sunny, the queen of smug glances and perfectly polished outrage. The one who could scold a pothole into fighting for justice, or deliver a full lecture on social inequality to a fern and still make it feel guilty, all while somehow pretending there isn't a multi-million-dollar financial mess brewing right in her own backyard.
The problem is that you have to go after the racist people. And if the CEO goes, you know what, I'm not going to allow a woman on my show, or man, that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racist on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's a lot of people at home, white people at home during the day, that are not watching your show anymore. So just clean it up.
Yeah, Emily.
Turns out, while Sunny was busy trying to reshape the world with her signature brand of smug lectures and righteous scolding, her husband was out there offering a masterclass in how not to handle money. We're not talking about a missed bill here or there. This was a full-blown financial catastrophe, to the tune of $450 million. It's the kind of mistake that makes monopoly debt look responsible.
So that makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by The View's gravitational pull. All right, Kat, did you ever see such a group? It's amazing how Joy and Whoopi became the smart ones.
That massive lawsuit hit Sunny's household like a flying latte in a parking lot argument, sudden, messy, and hard to ignore. You'd think she might take a step back, maybe let things cool off. But no, she came right back to The View with that same air of superiority, like nothing happened. And right on cue, comedy karma showed up in the form of Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus. Let's start with Greg, the guy who makes sarcasm look like a professional sport. He's always viewed The View like it's his least favorite soap opera, daily dose of self-importance with a side of outrage. So when the story broke about Sunny's husband fumbling nearly $500 million, Greg was ready. He didn't need to yell, just a smirk and a well-aimed jab. Sunny preaching ethics while her husband crashes into financial ruin. That's like getting dating advice from the cast of Jersey Shore. And honestly, he wasn't wrong.
It's not even that. In The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sunny, and the, was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Yeah, broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back. She was a Republican, but every show and every break, she was nearly in tears because she was being attacked.
Greg's single quotes takedown was a masterclass in irony. He painted a picture of Sunny Hostin sipping champagne on live TV, while her family's finances were getting shredded behind the scenes. His message: if hypocrisy had a playlist, Sunny would be front and center, dancing in a feather boa. And the audience? They ate it up like free samples at Costco.online. The response exploded. Reddit threads blew up. Twitter was flooded with Mim Sunny wagging her finger while holding a Bankruptcy for Dummies book became the image of the week. But just as the laughs started to settle, in came the second punch, delivered with quiet force by none other than Tyrus. Tyrus doesn't shout, he doesn't wave his arms. He leans back, speaks calmly, and drops truth bombs like he's launching satellites. And Sunny got the full treatment. He started by asking the question no one on The View had the guts to say out loud. How can someone, so obsessed with looking virtuous, miss the financial disaster happening right under her nose? Then came the real blow, calling out the absurdity of preaching morals from a crumbling pedestal.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. And it is funny, she's so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
Tyrus's breakdown wasn't just brutal, it was precise. He said Sunny had become the poster child for elite disconnect, scolding regular Americans for not being woke enough, while being completely unaware that her own financial ship was sinking fast. It wasn't just about money, it was about image. Sunny had spent years crafting a brand as a bold, intellectual voice, but now, that brand was undone by something as basic as financial mismanagement. It was like watching Gordon Ramsay burn microwave popcorn. Where Greg brought the jokes, Tyrus brought the wrecking ball. While Greg mocked the moment, Tyrus tore down the whole structure. He pointed out what many viewers had already noticed. The View has turned into a performance and emotional soapbox where accountability is optional. The contrast couldn't have been more striking. On one screen, Sunny Hostin, the moral compass of daytime TV, scolding the world about ethics and empathy. On the other, the hard truth of a $450 million financial mess unraveling in her own home. And just like that, whatever credibility was left started to vanish.
Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
And what did the rest of The View ladies do in the face of a financial meltdown of titanic proportions? They circled the wagons like it was closing night at the Denial Theater. No reflection, no accountability, a fresh coat of smug and a sprinkle of faux empowerment. One panelist even tried spinning the backlash as sexist. Because apparently when your husband turns $450 million into smoke, the real issue is toxic masculinity. Meanwhile, Greg and Tyrus kept the bonfire roaring. Greg mocked the idea that Sunny could rail against billionaires while starring in her own personal Ponzi prequel. He joked that the next season of The View would be sponsored by GoFundMe and Final Notice envelopes. Tyrus, he just dropped another classic. If you're gonna criticize everyone else's house, maybe don't build yours out of bounced checks and borrowed time. The internet went full beast mode. YouTube lit up with clips. Memes flooded every feeds. finger-wagging next to IRS letters addressed to her front door. The View tried to carry on, but the vibe had shifted. The studio laughs felt hollow, the outrage felt rehearsed, and suddenly, everyone noticed. The queens of daytime weren't just exposed, they were naked in the throne.
Sunny gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, asking that question, it might have been a closer election. But when oh no, nothing really comes to mind, I was like, cha-ching. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they called him Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game ball.
9. Because this wasn't just a Sunny story, it was a spotlight on the entire illusion, the glammed-up morality show taped in HD and sprinkled with condescension. That polished media elite act where hosts look down their noses while tripping over their own mess. And in the end, it took Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus, a satirist with caffeine for blood, and a wrestler with philosopher energy to rip the mask clean off. And how did Sunny respond? Not with humility. Not even a pause. She doubled down, more finger-wagging, more lectures, like the financial catastrophe was just a blip on her teleprompter. But the magic was gone. The armor cracked, and now, every time she speaks, there's a $450 million elephant quietly doing the cha-cha across the screen. Greg, of course, moved on to his next target, smiling like a man who just won a roast battle, and a tax refund in the same day. Tyrus leaned back in silence, waiting for the next fraud and pearls to step forward. And Sunny. She's still on The View, still judging, still performing. Only now, every viewer sees the subtitles no one can unsee. This opinion was brought to you by someone whose bank...
She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable. Hey, I'm an but at least I tip. This dame probably virtue signals on the toilet. But that's not the point here. While everybody else was trying to figure out how to survive as the government told us that breathing in public could kill us, Sunny was lolling around in her big house clicking on pictures of arugula while mixing Cocoa Puffs into her Haagen-Dazs. Oh, the oppression. I wonder if she wiped down the groceries herself or had her maid do it. She tips her too.
At this point, the takedown wasn't just a segment, it was a televised autopsy of media hypocrisy. Scalpel in one hand, sarcasm in the other. They didn't just call Sunny out, they dissected the entire genre she represents. Because let's be real, this wasn't just about her husband's speedrunning bankruptcy like it was a side quest on expert mode. It was about the broader absurdity of media. Moralizers who live in penthouses while lecturing average folks about privilege. Greg, ever the smirking sniper, understood the symbolism. This wasn't just schadenfreude, it was an X-ray of elite self-delusion wrapped in a punchline. Tyrus, on the other hand, treated it like improv night at the Comedy Cellar. His bit, what if unchecked privilege met delusion and forgot to call a lawyer? This wasn't about one woman's bad financial luck. It was a whistleblow on the entire cottage industry of TV finger-wagging where panelists preach Monday through Friday and spend the weekend hiding receipts. It's not just The View. It's an entire format. Do as I say, not as my bank statements indicate. Sunny just happened to be the latest headline on the guillotine of public opinion. And Greg and Tyrus, they didn't flinch. They swung the blade with flair.
Her a 10. I mean, how dare she objectify a woman with a sexist rating system, but it's such a typical thing from a 1.5.
Well said.
12. So when Greg and Tyrus let the sarcasm fly, they weren't just targeting Sunny, they were dismantling the entire act. The robes of objectivity gone, the script leaking through the teleprompter. And if Sunny insists on playing high priestess of moral virtue, maybe, just maybe, her congregation should know she's reading her sermons from inside a court deposition. Let's break the damage down like it's Sports Center. $450 million, gone, evaporated, launched into the sun, via flaming portfolio. Sunny's credibility nosedived harder than daytime ratings, post-Judge Judy. Meanwhile, Greg and Tyrus, cackling like cartoon villains in a Nielsen-soaked jacuzzi. This wasn't just a roast, it was a slow-smoked brand collapse. marinated in irony and basted in long overdue mockery. And as The View scrambles to pivot this into a teachable moment, viewers are left wondering, if Sunny's wisdom is free with every scandal, is it still overpriced? Asking for every couch-bound American, now reevaluating their life choices over a bowl of stale popcorn. Where does The View go from here? Can it even recover from this PR flamethrower to the face? Or has it finally jumped the shark wearing bedazzled bankruptcy suit and quoting Foucault like it's open mic night at a sociology department fundraiser? If this is what moral authority looks like in 2025, half scandal, half smug monologue, and 100% blind to irony maybe, just maybe, it's time to change the channel. Or at the very least, upgrade to hosts who know the difference between ethics and performance art.